We've all seen it, the transformation. A quiet, reserved scientist bombarded by gamma radiation and turned into a towering force of unstoppable power. But beneath the fiction lies a question few dare to ask seriously. Could the Hulk exist? Not just as a metaphor for anger or repression, but as a real biological phenomenon. A human capable of altering his physiology on demand, growing in mass, muscle, and power, defying everything we know about energy, genetics, and physics. On the surface, it sounds absurd. Gamma radiation doesn't give you superpowers, it ends your life. Muscles don't appear out of nowhere, and mass doesn't just increase. But what if we cracked the limits? What if future biology, combined with radical physics and speculative energy systems, could create someone who operates beyond current human constraints? In other words, what if advances in science make the once absurd actually plausible? Let's start with the origin story, gamma radiation. In the comics, Bruce Banner is bombarded by an intense blast of gamma rays, yet instead of dying from acute radiation syndrome, he transforms into the Hulk. So, what is gamma radiation really? Gamma rays are a form of high-frequency electromagnetic radiation, far more energetic than X-rays. They're emitted during nuclear decay or high-energy cosmic events, and they carry billions of electron volts per photon. In reality, this energy is deadly. Gamma rays ionize molecules, ripping apart DNA strands, causing cellular death, uncontrolled mutations, and, at high enough doses, total systemic collapse. In fact, a dose above 5 sieverts is considered lethal for humans. Think of a sievert as the radiation damage score your body takes in. A blast strong enough to transform someone physically would be strong enough to vaporize them. But let's entertain a theoretical workaround. What if Banner wasn't an ordinary human? What if he had been genetically modified or unknowingly born with hyperadaptive cell biology? Cells capable of instant dynamic repair and structural reconfiguration under extreme mutagenic stress. Enter the concept of induced mutagenesis, or inducing genetic mutations at the quantum level. In theory, if a biological system had a built-in mechanism for detecting and rewriting damaged DNA, then gamma radiation could serve not as a destroyer, but a catalyst. This system would need 3 traits. Firstly, quantum-stabilized chromosomes, shielding DNA from total degradation. Next, programmable nanoenzymes capable of repairing or rewriting damaged genes at femtosecond speed, that is, 1/400th of a second, or the amount of time it takes a photon to travel 0.3 micrometers. Lastly, the system would need self-regulating mutation thresholds, allowing the organism to decide when and how to mutate based on external stresses. While no such organism exists, nature gives us hints. The tardigrade, microanimals capable of surviving in extreme conditions, for example, produces a protein that protects its DNA from radiation-induced damage. If Banner's genome were seeded with similar extremophile traits, enhanced by synthetic biology, it's theoretically possible that gamma radiation didn't kill his cells, it reprogrammed them. Not randomly, but along a controlled path toward a metastable superorganism, capable of instantaneous tissue remodeling and phenotype switching. In short, Banner's exposure wasn't an accident. It was a trigger, a key unlocking a dormant genetic architecture. Let's say somehow Bruce Banner survived the gamma blast. His DNA wasn't destroyed, it was rewritten. But to become the Hulk, the body must undergo instantaneous full-body cellular transformation. That means regenerating tissue, growing massive amounts of muscle, and coordinating it all in real time, faster than any natural biological system could handle. Let's break it down. First, tissue regeneration. The Hulk can recover from bullet wounds, blunt force trauma, even total body burns, in seconds. In nature, some organisms can regenerate entire limbs, meaning such abilities could be possible. The axolotl, for instance, regrows bones, skin, and nerves with perfect precision. But the Hulk's healing must occur at hypersonic biological speed. That would require an internal army of induced pluripotent stem cells, pre-programmed to differentiate instantly into any tissue type. Here's the twist. To regenerate this fast, the cells need error-free DNA replication every time. We're talking about hyperactivated telomerase to prevent cellular aging, epigenetic control circuits to suppress cancerous mutations, and possibly quantum-level DNA repair mechanisms that detect and fix transcription errors before they propagate. In short, Hulk's cells operate like biological fusion reactors, combining resilience with regenerative precision. Now let's talk about strength and where it actually comes from. Human muscle strength increases with the cross-sectional area of muscle fibers. This means that a bigger muscle has more contractile fibers and more force. But there's a limit. Normal human tissue tears under excessive load. For the Hulk to throw tanks, punch through titanium, or leap kilometers into the air, his muscles would need tensile strength beyond anything carbon-based biology can offer. Solution? Bioengineered nanostructures. Imagine muscle fibers reinforced with self-assembling protein lattices, akin to biological carbon nanotubes. These wouldn't just contract, they'd amplify force using bioelectric signals to trigger quantum-aligned contraction waves, synchronizing down to the molecular level. The result? Muscular performance that exceeds the limits of Newtonian tissue mechanics. Think of it as a living exosuit, grown, not built. But even that isn't enough without one crucial piece: energy. A punch from the Hulk that lifts a 70-ton tank would require millions of calories in an instant. To put that in perspective, 1 million calories is the equivalent of 400 days' worth of food, or 5,500 pancakes. To perform the physical feats of the Hulk, you would need to double and even triple that for each and every act of spectacular aggression. The Hulk's cells need to run on energy sources other than glucose, using mitochondria that can draw power from things like surrounding quantum energy, tiny zero-point energy shifts, or even brief matter-antimatter reactions happening inside each cell. Every transformation into the Hulk could involve a controlled chain reaction, a biological detonation of subatomic potential, carefully regulated by some internal governor mechanism, perhaps linked to adrenaline or emotional state. Bottom line? The Hulk's body is not a scaled-up human. It's a total redefinition of biology, where every cell functions like an autonomous machine, part of a responsive network, guided by genetic algorithms and quantum biomechanics. In Marvel Comics, Bruce Banner weighs 128 pounds or 58 kilograms. The Hulk? Easily 1,150 pounds, or more than 520 kilograms, based on volume, density, and impact force. So the question is simple: where does all that mass come from? According to the law of conservation of mass and energy, mass can't just appear out of nowhere. If Hulk's transformation is real, it has to follow the rules, or at least find a loophole. Let's explore 3 speculative possibilities. Option 1. Energy to mass conversion via Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared, which tells us that mass is energy. So theoretically, if Banner could absorb or store enough energy, his body could convert that into mass during transformation. But here's the catch. To create 1,000 pounds of new mass, he'd need roughly the total energy output of 194 Tsar bombas, the largest hydrogen bomb ever detonated. The most destructive power on Earth, in other words, would somehow need to be contained within living tissue. To do this without vaporizing himself, he'd need a quantum-stabilized biological matrix capable of distributing and storing that energy across every atom. In short, Hulk's cells would need to function like biological capacitors, able to hold and safely convert staggering amounts of stored energy. Option 2. Extra-dimensional mass displacement. Let's say Banner doesn't generate mass, he borrows it. According to M-theory, the theory that unifies all consistent versions of superstring theory, our universe could be one of many higher-dimensional membranes, floating in a higher-dimensional bulk. What if Hulk's transformation involves pulling matter from a parallel dimension, momentarily opening a channel to a space where that mass is stored until needed? The result? A seamless materialization of extra mass without violating conservation laws, because in the full multiverse, no mass was created only moved. Far-fetched? Absolutely. But within the speculative framework of quantum gravity, not impossible. Option 3. Variable Higgs field interaction. The Higgs field is an energy field believed to be present in every corner of the universe. The field interacts with other fundamental particles like electrons and quarks, and is what gives particles mass. What if Hulk's transformation alters how his particles interact with the Higgs field itself? By increasing his connection to the field, his mass could increase without needing to add physical atoms. This would imply an advanced form of biophysical field manipulation, a body that can dial up its presence in the Higgs field during stress or trauma. Theoretically, this could explain both the increase in weight and his gravitational presence without violating classical physics. Of course, no known organism can do any of this, but if we imagine a body designed, whether by accident, mutation, or advanced engineering, to exploit these edge-case physics interactions, then maybe the Hulk doesn't just defy science. Maybe he's using a version of science we haven't discovered yet. The Hulk doesn't transform at will. He transforms when he's angry. So what's really going on in Bruce Banner's brain? What does rage do to the human body? And how could it trigger such a radical metamorphosis? Let's start with real human neurobiology. When we experience extreme stress or anger, the amygdala, our brain's emotional processing center, activates. It sends urgent signals to the hypothalamus, which lights up the sympathetic nervous system, launching the classic fight or flight response. Adrenaline surges, heart rate climbs, muscles tense. But this system wasn't designed to trigger complete biological reconstruction. So what if Banner's neurobiology was fundamentally different? Imagine if, at the molecular level, Banner's neurons were interfaced with a biocybernetic switch, a neural circuit that detects emotional thresholds and activates a genomic cascade in response to rage. Instead of just releasing adrenaline, this system releases a custom biochemical cocktail, let's call it Compound X, triggered only under emotional overload. Compound X travels through the bloodstream, activating dormant enhancer genes, rewriting protein expression across every cell in seconds. This would require rapid blood-brain feedback loops and a form of neurochemical amplification never before observed in biology. There are precedents, just smaller. Some individuals under extreme stress have displayed hysterical strength, lifting heavy objects most people wouldn't be able to budge. These rare feats are likely caused by temporary neurochemical overrides that remove the brain's natural safety modifiers. Banner's transformation could be that principle, magnified 1,000-fold. His mind literally flips a biochemical switch that engages a second, latent physiology, like toggling between operating systems on a quantum computer. The Hulk isn't just a body, he's a neurological state. But here's the paradox. The more stressed Banner becomes, the more powerful the Hulk becomes. Rage doesn't just trigger the transformation, it fuels it. Meaning the Hulk's strength is potentially limitless, but so is his instability. Like a runaway freight train, the brain designed to protect him is now the engine of his destruction. And that makes Bruce Banner not just a scientific anomaly, but a prisoner inside his own nervous system. The Hulk is more than muscle and rage. He's a frontier, a living hypothesis at the intersection of biology, physics, and the unknown. Gamma radiation couldn't do this alone. But if you imagine a body that stores nuclear-scale energy and can rewrite its DNA on command, then maybe the Hulk isn't a myth. Perhaps he's a preview of what happens when human evolution meets impossible science. A monster, yes, but also a glimpse into what we could become if we ever learn to master the physics of transformation. Or more accurately, if we ever dared to. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please remember to like and subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Only on Crotonium.